If you've designed your e-commerce site with one or two types of people in mind, then you're probably not getting great results. And that's because there are actually 5 types of people that exist for every single e-commerce business, and understanding and designing an experience that handles each one will maximize your conversion rate and improve your sales. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And there's actually easy ways to do that. We often talk about how important it is to know your customers deeply and have things like your customer avatars dialed in. And if you don't have that, we'll link to the guide to how you can create those. This lets you understand who to market to and how to communicate value to them to make the purchase happen. Now, even if you have that, there are actually still different mindsets inside of each one of those types of avatars, right? Each one of your customer types. And if you know these, then you can design a site that will accommodate each one and maximize your sale. And so today we're going to talk about what those 5 people types are and how you can facilitate each one at the same time on your website. And so first, let's talk about the 2 types of shoppers that you have to accommodate. These are our first 2 types. Everybody shops differently, but there are actually only 2 basic types of shoppers that you have to accommodate on your e-commerce website. The first one is the browser. This one is the person who doesn't yet know exactly what they want. They need to learn. They want to understand your brand. They need to be led through an experience that gets them to the right product as quickly as possible. And for this shopper, you'll want to make sure that you have the perfect e-commerce homepage dialed in, and we can link to where you can actually purchase that template below so that they can actually learn as much as they want on your homepage. They can be directed to the right place at the right time. You'll also want to have your navigation and your product organization and your listing pages, your product listing pages and your product detail pages. You want all those things organized. You want them clean. You want them to be very logical so that you can facilitate the browser as they browse your site. You'll want to do all this as quickly as possible, facilitating the browsing of the browser, but not overwhelming them. All right, so number 2, the laser. And this is the person who knows exactly what they're looking for. They may not know exactly the product that they want, but they are action focused and they're easily frustrated if you get in their way. For this shopper, you want to make sure that you don't frustrate them with too much information or poor navigation or distracting things or confusing menus and labels and categories and those kind of things. Because this person has a lot of intent. They're trying to get their problem solved right away. So you'll want to make sure that your search works really well. You want to make sure that your navigation is clean and obvious and organized. You want to make sure that your product listing pages are easily scannable, especially if you have lots of variants or colors and things like that. Make sure they're easily scannable. Make sure your product images are all uniform so that, again, it's scannable. It's not all the same, but it's not all confusing and overwhelming. Your product detail page needs to give the right information, make sure it's laid out appropriately, the right information at the right time in the right priority. You want to make sure that your mobile layouts are very, very tight and obvious and easy and simple to use. You want to make sure that your checkout is quick and easy to use. And so if you're on a platform like Shopify Plus, which is great, or BigCommerce Enterprise, then you don't have to worry about that as much, but you want to make sure that your checkout is swift and easy to use so that they can get that purchase done as quickly as they want to. All right, so that's the first 2 types, which are the types of shoppers. There are 3 types of buyers that you must accommodate. And these types actually go through both of the shopper types as well. The 3 buyer types, these align with the 3 stages of buying that someone will go through, and your site has to handle all 3 if you don't want to lose out on big chunks of one of these or 2 of these or all of them. So the first buyer type, the now buyer. This is someone who is ready to buy now. It's obvious in the name. This doesn't mean that they're a laser necessarily. They may be a browser, but the key is that they have a pain that they have decided needs to be solved right away. This can't wait. They're going to be fast once they find what they want. So for this buyer, you want to make sure that your experience is simple, clean, and easy to use. And the key here is making things obvious, the right information at the right time, and the right next steps. We want to lead someone down the path. And so for this buyer, price is not the most important thing. Speed and the solution is the most important thing. Like, does your product do what they need to solve? If so, then they're going to buy it as long as the price is not really bad or you're doing something wrong on your site. And so for this buyer, you want to make sure that you get them the right information. You want to make sure that your experience is easy to use, right? So you're leading them. Easy and obvious buy buttons, what the next steps that they should take. All those things are really easy to use. Buyer number 2, the soon buyer. This is where most websites focus, actually, without even realizing it. This is for someone who wants to buy, but they lack urgency. They lack the urgency of the now buyer. And this person will easily be distracted. We must push and help this person make the decision as quickly as possible. Because if not, they'll languish, they may get distracted, and this is where probably most of your customers sit. For this buyer, we want to make sure that we have the top 3 email automations that we're supposed to have dialed in, and we can link to our guide on email and e-commerce email and growing that, which has all that. We want to make sure that we don't have a distracting experience. We want that experience to be really simple. And we want a way for their content to get their contact information early in the process so that we can follow up when they do get distracted and when they do forget to do the sale, or when a competitor sounds more interesting, or when this pain that they decided is important enough to try and solve right now, when they decide that, oh, it's not important anymore. We want to be able to follow up with them and encourage them to purchase if it's the right time and the right product for them to purchase. The things you want to focus on here are the offer, right? So the offer, an irresistible offer, which we'll link to, is super important. We want to include urgency in that. We want to have a value stack. We want to communicate extreme value. We want to have the right price and de-risking elements. These are all critical in this experience. And of course, we want to get a way to communicate with them and have a communication strategy through automations, specifically with this buyer, so that when they get distracted, we can pick up where they left off. The third buyer is the later buyer. And this is someone who is not ready to buy now. They may be planning for the future, or they may be just dreaming for the future, right? Depending on the type of product, you might have that type of product that is aspirational, or it just may not be the right life stage for them. There are some brands where this is really obvious, where this is most of their buyers. Let's say you're a wedding brand, like you do something in that area, products or services. A lot of your buyers are probably later buyers, and then they move up, and they become soon buyers, and they become now buyers, right? But even if you're not in an industry where that's explicit and usually the case, this is the case for every single product. There are buyers that are later buyers. And if we just ignore them, then we're losing out on a ton of people. So for these types of buyers, high pressure isn't what is going to be effective, because now is just simply not the right time. So direct response marketing is not exactly, which is where most people focus, like it's not exactly the tactic that's going to work for them, because time just isn't right. The key here is getting a way to stay in contact with them, and then you develop content and you build your brand and relationship with them over time until they're ready to buy. And this is done through a great email strategy, and we'll link to that product as well. And the second part of this is you want to actually give them offers, right? And so they're not just going to move forward by themselves. We don't want to leave them moving forward by themselves, or a competitor may come in and swoop in and actually get their sale when it gets closer to when they're ready to buy. And so we want to be building our relationship and brand with them, and we want to be sending them offers and moving them into purchase, giving them opportunities to purchase over and over and over again. And we do that through email. And so understanding the 5 people types, the five mindsets, which are really segments of our ideal customers, right? Understanding this will make your site and your marketing way more effective. And if you'd like to see how the 5 types are accommodated in the perfect e-commerce website, which we built after testing this idea for 10 years with hundreds of brands, then you can go ahead and grab that product at a link below at a special limited time offer. And if you're a 6 to 9 figure brand and need to improve your e-commerce conversion rate or the conversion rate of your marketing, go to metacake.com and we'd love to help. Thanks, and never stop growing.